There's a big story in the NBA. The Phoenix Suns making some moves. Rob G, come in here because we have. They're not conflicting reports, but
is there somebody saying that they didn't release him?
No, Chris Haynes of Bleacher Report is saying that the Suns notified Chris Paul that he will be waived. Shams Charania of The Athletic and Stadium is saying that they have talked to Chris Paul and they're going to work something out. It could be that he gets waived. It could be that they re-sign him at a lower rate as a free agent. It could be a trade. So those are slightly different. Could be stretching his contract out over multiple years, and I assume that means keeping him.
This is a clumsy report, okay? This is all over the place.
Well, the one report from Shams has the more details.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
But the Suns and Chris Paul are exploring multiple options, league sources tell The Athletic, including a trade, waiving and stretching his contract over multiple years, or waiving and potentially re-signing him in free agency, league sources say. If he gets stretched, he will not be back with the Suns. Rob, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think they should do with the 38-year-old Chris Paul?
I would just move on. Chris Paul, the problem, Chris, is that you can't count on him come postseason time. He always winds up getting hurt.
Yep.
He's had an unbelievable career. That's not to take anything away from him. But what is your goal? If your goal is not to play in May and June, then Chris Paul's great to add to your team. If it's about May and June, Chris, then at 38 years old and a slew of injuries, he got hurt this year in the postseason. He got hurt the year they went to the finals. Wasn't he hurt in that postseason too and then got better? But he gets hurt.
Yep.
And I wouldn't invest in Chris Paul if I'm trying to make a long playoff run. I just wouldn't do it.
I agree completely. And Rob, it is a shame. And look, it worked out for Giannis because Giannis has the monkey off his back. Even, this postseason was embarrassing for Giannis, right? Losing to Miami in the first round in just 5 games, even though he missed some of those games with injury. But because he won that championship a few years ago and put on an historic performance, he doesn't catch the flack that he would, correct? But on the other hand, it was a shame for Chris Paul because that was Chris Paul's chance to win that elusive championship. They were up 2-0. Everybody was singing his praises. Top
Chris,
5 point guard ever.
Giving him his flowers prematurely. Yep. I mean, everybody was going crazy. 2-0. They figured, okay, this is in the bag. They never won another game.
Yep, that was it. And even Rob, and look, he averaged 14 points and 8.5 assists last year, so he wasn't bad. But he's certainly not what he used to be. And you hit it on the head. If I'm trying to win a championship and Chris Paul or whoever my point guard is, in this case him, is a key part of my team, I can't count on him. I cannot count on him. It's really not, I don't want to blame him. He's 38 years old. He's been injury prone, for a lot of his career. A lot of those Clippers teams, Rob, that didn't, advance in the playoffs with Doc Rivers, some of that was injuries. Chris Paul or Blake Griffin, somebody was banged up a lot of the time. And, I'm looking at Chris Paul's playoff career right now. Around 2015 misses 2 games. 2016 misses 2 games. 2018 misses the last 2 games of a series. That was another great chance. Remember when Houston was up on Golden State 3-2, and then Chris gets hurt in Game 5, misses the last 2 games. Right. Golden State wins them, and they go on to win the championship. 2021, that's the one where they got to the finals, missed 2 games in those Western Conference finals against the Clippers. And then, of course, this year, missed 4 games against Denver, the last 4 games of that series. So, yeah, we've said it before, Rob, you don't get healthier as you age. So here's what I think. I definitely think Phoenix should move on. Obviously, you'd like to trade him. I think that should be your first option, Rob, because you get something back. And this is a team that needs depth.
All right,
So that would be my first thing. I'm working with Chris. We're going to try to get you to a nice spot, maybe where you still have a chance to win a ring. And then, we'll see if we can get some depth for you.
So Woj is now reporting, Chris, that Chris Paul wants to return to Phoenix, if possible, to play with his close friend, Devin Booker, and that the Suns will also explore trading DeAndre Ayton. So I don't know, like maybe this was coming down. He was going to be released, and then he said, I don't want to move. I don't want to leave. You know what I mean? I want to play with Devin. I don't want to go anywhere. How can we work this out? I'll do whatever I got to do. So maybe this is why there's all these conflicting reports.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about keeping him? Certainly you want to keep him at a lower number. I just fear, like, I'd love him. He's better than Cam Payne, who's the backup, Cameron Payne. But they play at a faster pace with Cameron. And here's the challenge, Rob, with starting Chris. If, he's your best point guard, so you typically would start him. Here's the challenge, though. What if you start him and, like this year, he gets hurt in the playoffs? Now, you got a backup, but you're used to playing with Chris Paul. And so now in the biggest games and the most important games, and really all you're playing for, because at this point it's championship or bust for Phoenix, you're now playing differently than you played all season. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
yeah, you got to be careful in pro sports, Chris, not to get attached to people because they're good people and you like them personally. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
What are you trying to do here? And it's no disrespect to Chris Paul, but this is not family and you're inviting somebody to a barbecue or a party
right.
or no.
Right.
Like, does this work? Do these pieces fit? Is he really going to be what we need come the end of the year? You know what I mean? In May and June.
Yep.
And he hasn't been doing that. You're not going to get healthier as you get older. It's exact opposite.
Right. Yeah, I would be looking, like I said, to trade him. There are other places he can go where he could be in the hunt and have a chance to win. Milwaukee, they got Drew Holiday. You could play those two together. Boston, I don't think Boston, because again, for them, it's championship or bust. And I know I'm trying to get him to a team that has a shot at winning. Boston could use a great playmaking point guard. He would fit, but the question I'd be worried about if I'm Boston is, will he be there in the playoffs? The team I like, Rob, is Houston. Now, obviously, they're not going to win anything, but they're bringing in they have a bunch of young players, and Chris is a great leader. He's a smart player. And he would really teach those guys good things about the league, things that really would serve them well going forward. We saw him do it a few years ago in Oklahoma City, and now, Rob, they're a team on the rise. And they had a great year with him. They actually, if I remember correctly, they made the playoffs. And he was a big part of that. And he helped Shai Gilgeous-Alexander mature. And now he's a star, if not a superstar. And the other thing in Houston, Rob, is that unlike James Harden, Chris would not take the ball away from the young guys. He would feed them. He'd set Jalen Green up to be a star. He'd set Jabari Smith and Şengün and all these guys up to be the best players they could be. If I'm Houston, Rob, I'm not interested in James Harden. If I'm bringing in a veteran point guard who's going to lead the locker room, teach the young guys about winning, I'm now going after Chris Paul because he'll be a lot cheaper too. Like, to me, that is a no-brainer for Houston to take Chris Paul over James Harden. You're not going to the playoffs most likely. Maybe you sneak in, but, you're not a contender. So even if Chris gets hurt, it's okay. So that's what I would be looking at if I'm another team.
Nah, I hear you. That makes more sense. I know right away I saw trending, Chris Paul to the Lakers. That's the first thing that, of course, people pushed out there.
Yeah, Rob G's dreaming about that too. What
Rob
do you
G,
think?
is that he's salivating?
You would think it could happen because obviously he's close with LeBron. He mentioned wanting to play with his friend Devin Booker. Would he want to play with his friend LeBron James? Again, Rob, my question is, where is he in the postseason? And secondly, you already have a ball handler in LeBron, but Austin Reeves is going to handle the ball a lot. Does Chris take the ball? Now is Austin Reeves almost entirely playing off the ball if Chris is there? So,
right. That's not what you want, though, is it?
I don't think so. I'm not going to say it's horrible. It might be something worth exploring for the Lakers, but I'd be very careful. Because, again, they're a team that it's really, we're trying to win a ring. Nothing else. And so, it's going to be interesting. I think Phoenix, though, should move on because we just talked about it. You just unfortunately can't count on Chris to stay too healthy. And we saw that this year in no uncertain terms.